Thank you for joining me today. In this video, we're going to be covering the basics of Microsoft To Do. This application has been very handy for me lately, especially since I've needed help planning my day and staying on top of tasks that can't really be finished in the moment. I'm hoping that this will help you as well. I know most of us in this modern world have very busy lives, and anything that helps us stay on top of our tasks and anything that we need to do in general is always very beneficial. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first way I would like to show you how to get to Microsoft To Do is via the web portal. This is via Office 365. The easiest way to get there is via todo.microsoft.com, as you can see here. Okay, it's already listed because I had just logged into it. You can go ahead and select Get Started. Okay, sign in. And here we have the task list. This is just a mock list that I created for the purpose of this video. But the first thing that I would like to start off with is how to create new lists. So let's call this one New List. As you can see, I already have a few created here, but I think that it's very helpful to have multiple lists instead of throwing all of your tasks into one place, because you may want to put things for work, for your personal life, for your kids, for school, whatever it is, and have them separated, have that kind of clarity between, where what's supposed to go. I find it beneficial. I don't put all of my tasks in just, one generic list. So this is how you would do that. So here's a list of lists that I have. I have a to-do video, I have a demo list, and I have this new list that I created. Let's jump up here to the to-do video list because I already have a task created. And I'm actually going to delete this one, create a new one. Okay, let's call it video. And when you go ahead and click into that task, you get a bunch of options here. And I'm going to show you what they are in a moment. Okay. The first thing that I want to go over is having different steps. So you may have to have different steps when you create a task. There's multiple things you have to do in relation to that task that you created. In this case, this task is called video. So the first step I'm going to put is, record, okay, because that's the first step that I have to do for this task. The second step that I'm going to put is edit, and then publish. You get the idea. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is you can add this to your day under here, and I'm going to cover that in a little bit. I'll go more into detail into what my day means. The next thing that you have are reminders. So if you want to be reminded of a task, at any given moment, let's say you want to be reminded tomorrow at 5 a.m., you can go ahead and set that up and set that alarm for yourself. You can also add a due date, which is a little bit different from the reminder. The due date is, it is going to show up on your calendar under here where it says planned, which I'm also going to cover in a little bit. But they are slightly different. Reminder is just a reminder. It's just an alarm. And the due date is the date that you've set for yourself for completion. Okay. And you could also color coordinate it depending on however you want to organize yourself. I personally don't use the different colors. I just separate everything into different lists. But if you would like to do that, if that's helpful for you, then it's available. Okay. The next thing that you can do is add attachments, which is really handy because let's say you have a task that says, okay, I need to pay this bill. You can actually attach different files such as PDFs and Excel documents, Word documents. So let's say you have this bill that you need to pay and you attach the PDF file of the bill. You have it right there. It's very helpful. And the last thing that we're going to cover in this section is the notes. I really find it, some people use it, some people don't. I use it just because there's many times that I create a task and I totally forget what it is. Let's say the due date is a month ahead, and I only put a couple of lines in the summary section, and we forget. So I like to always put in notes explaining what the task is, going more in depth of what I'm supposed to do with the task. I find it very beneficial. You may or may not use it, but I encourage you to do so. Okay. One of the next tricks that I want to teach you is you can go ahead and right click and you can mark it as important. And I'm going to show you what that does in a second. Okay. So let's jump up here to My Day. Under My Day, you're going to have all of the tasks that you have due today. So everything that you have due for today is going to show up here. Pretty simple. You can also add tasks directly to My Day. I don't recommend it just because, it is better to segregate everything in different lists, and it is easier to get lost or to get confused. Just put everything in the list that you indicate. Okay, and now we're on to this part where it says important. If you guys remember about 30 seconds ago in the video, I right clicked on that task and I marked it as important. So if you have things that are very urgent across different task lists, you can do what I just did, which is right click, mark it as important, and it will show up in this list right here. Okay. And here under calendar, you see an overview of all of the tasks that you have due within the next week. So you can, it shows you today. If I had more tasks in there, it would show me tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, etc., etc. So that's very beneficial. Under Assign to Me, this is more for those users that are on Office 365 for business. If you're in a business or corporate type environment with multiple people on your Office 365 tenant, you can actually create tasks and assign it to other people in the company and add them to those task lists. That's really effective if you're managing remote workers or people from afar, and you have a hard time communicating with them what they're supposed to be doing, or you want to know, okay, did they complete this? Is it not? Because when they mark it off, you get a notification. Okay. And the last thing that I want to share with you, which unfortunately I can't demo because this is a test account that I created for the purpose of this video, so it doesn't have any email. But if you're using the Office 365 mail, so whether Exchange Online or Hotmail or Outlook.com, when you right click on an email and you flag it, it automatically shows up here under your Microsoft to-do list, which is very handy. Okay. And of course, if you already completed a task, you want to mark it off, you just go ahead and hit this circle and mark it as completed. And again, if you're one of those business users and you assign the task to someone else, when they mark it as completed, you will get notified. So that's very handy. Great. So this is Microsoft To Do on the Office 365 web portal. Now let's show you the next way to access it, which is what I personally use the most. So if you want to use the Microsoft To Do desktop client, you can actually head over to the Microsoft Store. I already have it downloaded on this computer. Just give it a moment. Search To Do, very simple. Okay. And it'll give you the option to download. Of course, I already have it installed on this computer. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and open the application. Let me close the Windows Store. Okay, so this is what you're going to get the first time that you run it. Okay. Let me sign in. Okay, so this is what you're going to see when you first log into Microsoft To Do after downloading it on your computer. And as you can see, it's pulling up everything and if you guys get this message, what this means is, do you want this to be pinned down here to the taskbar? If you select yes, it's gonna stay down here. So if I close it, it's gonna stay here. If you select no, then you can just access it from the start menu. Okay. Let me open it back up. And as you can see, all of the things that we worked on, the Office 365 web environment, it all shows up here in Microsoft To Do for the desktop. It's a slightly different look, maybe a little prettier, more sophisticated. But let's go back to this To Do task. So as you can see, all of the functions are essentially the same. When I click here, I get the same options that I do on the web. There really is very little difference between the Office 365 for web experience and the desktop experience. I do prefer the desktop experience though, because when you're using the desktop experience, you actually get notifications with your alerts and your reminders. But it's up to you. Some people don't like to install extra applications on their computer, or you may prefer the web interface. It doesn't matter. Okay, and now we're going to get into the last way of accessing your Office 365 Microsoft To Do. So now you can see my iPhone screen. You can go ahead and download the To Do application from the App Store, and once you have it installed, you can go ahead and tap the To Do app, and as you can see, it's loading up all of the information that we just saw both on the To Do desktop application and on the web application. It looks a little bit simpler, but we still have all the same functions. So let's go back to this To Do video list. And as you can see, we can tap here. We have all of the same options. We can, you can add steps, add reminders, add to your day, add files. So if you want to take a picture from your iPhone and or Android phone as well, and add it as an attachment or add notes, you can do that. You can create new lists. And you also see the same functionality of My Day, Important, Planned. Very, very similar to what you get, everywhere else with this application. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe to our Metro CSG YouTube channel for weekly tips and tricks on Microsoft 365 and cloud products.